How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Tales from the Darkside, Season 3, Episode 9, and this one's entitled Baker's Dozen. This originally aired November 23rd, 1986, and was directed by John Sutherland. It stars Mabel King and Larry Manetti, who it lists as a special guest, and also Vernon Washington. The teleplay for this episode was actually written by series creator George A. Romero, which is always really cool. But the thing with this is Romero actually wrote the first episode for this season, The Circus. So we usually were getting one Romero episode per season, but this season, just to be extra fun and special, we have a second Romero episode. That's pretty cool. This is based on a short story by Scott Edelman. And in this episode, we go down to Louisiana, where a woman who practices voodoo opens up a cookie shop. And the cookies she sells in her shop have various special abilities. This attracts an advertising guy to come and say, I want to help you franchise out. However, he is warned of the cookie's dangerous powers and is given a special cookie that she doesn't sell to her customers with a mysterious and evil power behind it. And overall, it's a pretty fun episode. It's really, really classic anthology horror, all the best of the anthology horror tropes, but also a bunch of extra little bells and whistles and fun things thrown on there as well. For example, classic anthology horror, recombination. Take a classic horror thing that people are afraid of. In this case, we have the voodoo character, and then combine it with something innocuous, like a bakery, and now you get cookies with magical powers. That's really cool. And the last cookie, I don't want to spoil what it does, it's a fun reveal, but it's a fun idea that ties back into voodoo as well, and that last cookie is just such a fun concept. We also get good over-the-top characters in this one. You know, we get the evil voodoo priestess, but we also get an evil businessman as the character we come in and start following. So yeah, two evil characters this time around, not just one, and it's sort of antagonist versus antagonist, which, yeah, you don't see that too often. And a good classic anthology backstabbing and betrayal plot, which leads to a cool ending. Again, won't spoil the ending, but it's an ending that takes it a little farther than you think and has a few elements of, oh yeah, really should have saw that coming, yet somehow you don't. And it's these little things, you know, that you're like, oh, that was, yeah, that was hinted at earlier in the episode. Really should have seen that final twist. But like I said, you know, it's not reinventing the wheel, but it's giving us a really good wheel. And overall, I think this is A, really good as an anthology horror story, but B, a really good sample episode to show someone what Tales from the Darkside is like. So yeah, not the biggest and best Darkside ever, but I'd say a really, really fun one, and definitely would recommend it. Really classic there. Anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and analyze this episode a little further. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but as I go to the plot, I'll take some moments to analyze and, you know, talk a little bit about it, but I won't cover the twist. Anyway, we open up with this bakery called Cousins Dozens. Cousins is the owner's last name, and Dozens because she sells 12 different kinds of cookies. Anyway, we start off following this old man who is the assistant, and he's talking about how he's treated so bad. The boss calls him kitchen rat, and he says, oh, rats are even treated better than this. And he's mumbling and going about his business, closing up the shop, when there's a knock at the door. And this guy comes in, and he's a businessman. He's recently opened his own advertising agency, and he says, I want to see the owner because I think this business is a prime target for franchising out. And if I franchise this business out, then more people will come to me and I'll get, my own ad firm started. So he sees this as a win-win situation. The boss comes out and they start to talk, and he says, I know your product. That's why I think there's some success here. It really does work. It really is a good product. You see, she has 12 different cookies, and each one has an ability. There's one that makes you tranquil. There's another one that gives you a bunch of energy. Boy, I have to shoot a lot of reviews today. I need the energy one. But yeah, 12 different cookies. Happiness, energy, tranquility, a bunch of different things, and they all seem to work pretty well. And he says, I have faith in your product. That's why I think we can scale it. We should really team up together and do this. And she is not really super impressed. She says, I'm fine with what I'm doing right now. I don't really need to scale it up. And that's where he says, oh yeah, you don't want to team up with me? Well, what if I took one of your cookies to the police? Because, of course, he thinks there's drugs in the cookie, which would be a logical real-world exception. Of course, we all know this is Darkside. They're going to be magic. But also, if he thought the cookies only worked because of illegal drugs, then how did you think you were going to scale up this business to the franchise level? I mean, maybe you could start off with the drugs and then go clean or something once you got big enough and became a recognized brand. But I mean, say you had stores all over the country. You know what kind of operation that would be? To get past the FDA and to ship the ingredients to all these stores, meanwhile not having all the employees know? I mean, it's a logical assumption, but how do you think you can get her to franchise with that sort of activity? Of course, we know it's not drugs. But anyway, she's about ready to throw him out when he takes out his work. He actually whipped up a few ideas, a logo design and a slogan, and she's actually impressed, and she's like, okay, I'm going to think about it. Come by again tomorrow, and we'll talk. So he may have actually just gotten himself a sale. But before he leaves, the lady says, take some cookies for the road. And as she heads to the back, the old assistant guy says, take these special cookies. And he gives him a bag with some cookies in it. And, of course, like any good character in anthology horror, no warning and no explanation as to what these special cookies do. But the guy, when he gets the cookies, he looks at them, and they're gingerbread cookies, little gingerbread men, and he says, she doesn't make these. The shop's name is Cousin's Dozens. She only sells 12 different kinds of cookies. Why would she have a 13th? And then that's when the guy explains a baker's dozen is 13, and that is true. Basically, the idea is that bakers, if you asked for a dozen, they would make you 12 and then throw in a bonus cookie or pastry or whatever you asked for in case one was messed up. So you'd have a spare, and it became this thing, and that's why baker's dozens are 13. So Cousin's Dozens has the main 12 cookies, and then the secret 13th cookie, because it's a baker's dozen. And he sends him off again without that warning or explanation as to what the power is for the 13th cookie, but he leaves, and the lady comes out from the back and says, I know what you did. You gave him some of these special cookies. And she says, you think you're going to scare him off, or maybe that he'll see this and he'll report it to someone and he'll stop me or something. But she says, you're wrong. He's a businessman. He's evil and conniving. You show him this power and he'll want in even more. And of course, we find out he really is a pretty bad, scummy businessman. He takes the cookies home. He gets in a fight with his wife. Turns out he's probably having an affair, even though we never officially get a confirmation. So yeah, we have sort of two antagonists. This evil businessman who's going to be looking out for himself, and a voodoo priestess who is, downright torturing her assistant person, which we do find out why she's torturing the assistant, and it is an interesting reason as well. But yeah, a classic backstabbing and betrayal type thing, and I don't want to go too much further into the plot, but I do want to say how it wraps up and how it goes from there is very interesting. The gingerbread man, let's just say, they don't waste the idea. It really is an interesting power that ties back into the theme in an interesting way, a reinvention of a trope, and it leads to some very, very fun moments. And when we get to the ending, classic dark anthology horror fates, several things that leave you going, yeah, that's pretty messed up, isn't it? And a good dark anthology horror ending that everybody just really likes. It's clever, it works within the theme, several moments of, oh yeah, I should have saw that coming, how did I not? They clearly set it up earlier in the episode. How did I and the character miss that little clue? And it really is one of those things that's good and dark, but does push it just a little farther, what makes it just a little better. So overall, yeah, like I said, it's not the biggest and best Darkside episode ever, but it is just such a good classic anthology horror story, a really fun concept, and when you know what the gingerbread man does, which I'm sure some of you can probably guess already, it's just gonna be you thinking, man, remember that Darkside episode with those gingerbread cookies? And it does lead to some really, really fun classic anthology horror moments. And overall, this is one that I can definitely recommend. The last episode of Darkside was a little bit lackluster. It was fine, but this one definitely a step into that classic Darkside I really like. I've seen that Season 3 is a little bit more hit and miss so far than the other seasons. We've seen some really good highs and then some lows, and it seems like it's fluctuating a little more, so I am curious what we're going to get for the rest of this. A lot of these episodes, it is my first time going in and seeing them, but some interesting discoveries, and this is definitely one of them. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist down at the bottom. This should be my Tales from the Darkside playlist, where you should be able to find my reviews for all the past episodes. I also did the Christmas episodes early, the Joe Hill comic, and a Season 1 and 2 overview. So this playlist is getting kind of long. If you want to see a lot more of me talking about Darkside, you should be able to find that there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Darkside playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.